I will help you later.
You will help me next Thursday.
Yes.
Hey, y'all.
Yes.
Hey, y'all. It's a Rockstar. Did you like my post about why I'm going to Seminole County? Did you like that, Cindy?
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, they're all joining. Come on in. Remember at the beginning of, like, we would be on YouTube or a platform, you would say, come on in. We're just waiting for a few more people to join, which is so rude for the people that did join. They were on time. So, bravo to those who are on time. My husband's never on time. Ever. He was leaving at before noon today. He left at 3:20. That's not on time.
Oh.
So this is what I say. You're either on time or you're selfish. Now, you don't have to like it, but I'm not wrong. So, there is that. Okay, so let's go.
I grew up, if you were on time, you're late. So you better be 10 minutes early.
Yeah. If my husband, goes to heaven and we have a funeral, don't rush to get there early because he won't be there. He'll be like, oh, there's one more thing I had to do. So, all right, boys and girls, kids of all ages, let's hear your questions.
Okay.
Somebody said good afternoon. Is it afternoon somewhere? Maybe in...
Sure.
Yeah.
California?
Yes. Just a wife, mom, and nanny. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's what you are. Wife, mom, and nanny. Yeah.
That's a full-time job.
Somebody just said in California. Thank you. All right. Let's go.
Okay. So, I found out today that not only is my son's substitute not a special education teacher, but she doesn't have a degree in the USA, but only in Egypt.
Correct. So tell me your question. Would you like to...
Anything I could do. Yeah, she said, is there anything I can do?
There's always something you could do. You could invoke your rights, right? So you have procedural rights and safeguards. They're only really procedural rights and safeguards if you exercise them. So you have a right to file a state complaint that 300.323 wasn't happening because the IEP wasn't being implemented, and that there was not a special educator with your student, 300.156.
Will Texas lose IEPs?
Lose them?
Lose them.
Like, lose them, what is that? I don't know what that means. Like they lost them?
Hopefully, Risa will give us some more information.
Yes, I am. Somebody asked if I'm familiar with Williams syndrome. I am. I have several kiddos over the years that I have served with Williams syndrome.
Oh, just a wife and mom and nanny is also a special education paraprofessional. So that's 2 full-time jobs.
That is, yes.
Okay, here we go. Still getting a couple through. So, what do you have coming up in the middle of February on that nice long weekend?
We have a 2-day in-person training, the 2-day intensive, live in person. It's going to be fantabulous, the 15th and 16th in Orlando. We still have room, so if you guys want to sign up, go to specialeducationacademy.com. And the 13th of February at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be doing a press conference in Seminole County Public Schools for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is they put a wooden bench on the outside of a door so kids were trapped in a room because they were low on staff members. Yeah.
Why pick one reason when you can have multiple?
Why? I mean, we got a state complaint, a federal complaint, blocking the door with a church pew. I feel like that's appropriate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, you guys, for all the nice things. Yeah.
I had my daughter's IEP last month. Her disability is ASD. She just got diagnosed with ADHD. Mm-hmm. What do I do with this new one?
So with the new information, you want to bring that back to the team. We want to include it in her paperwork that she has a medical condition. And then we want to make sure that to see if she rises to the level of having an educational eligibility for ADHD OHI.
I just wrapped up mediation. There was major pushback. I'm looking for top tips on how to negotiate on an IEP meeting.
So I would buy the book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's an amazing book. Or you could take our trainings. So we have a 2-day intensive that's on demand, and that's what we do best. We are phenomenal negotiators.
Yes. Please speak about Oklahoma trying to take away related services from IEPs.
So I read the statute. Here's the problem with legal language. It's always left up to interpretation. So Oklahoma, Alaska, Florida, it doesn't matter who you are, you cannot reduce the benefit of IDEA. So as I read the language, it said medical. So there is medical physical therapy. There's medical OT. There is medical speech therapy. But related services under IDEA didn't go away, even in Oklahoma.
Awesome. Antonia, my son Joshua with autism isn't getting his PT therapy on his IEP. What do I do?
You would address it with the school and say, when can I expect for this to begin? And once you have that answer, then you can ask for compensatory time to be delivered to your child to return him back to where he would have been had the violation not occurred. So several people have asked, what's going to happen if the Department of Education goes away? Will IEPs go away? So let's talk about that. So the Department of Education is a department. IDEA came to be December 2nd, 1975. And 504s came to be the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. The Department of Education wasn't until 79. So federal act and departments are two different things. So it's still a requirement that children with disabilities are educated, and children on 504s are not denied their civil rights. So that will, if for some reason it goes away, it will be governed by another entity, and that might be at the state level. But it doesn't, we're still going to have children that go to school. We're going to still have children with disabilities that are protected under the Individuals Disabilities Education Act.
Is it legal for a Texas public high school to not offer any therapy services?
No. Nope. Nope. Mm-mm.
Can a teacher propose a one-to-one for a student of high needs in a self-contained classroom?
I mean, a teacher can propose anything that she believes is appropriate for the disabled child.
What happens to IEP? Oh, we did that one. How do I track service time if my admin wants me to mind my own business, but the time is not being met?
That's the whistleblower that we had come forward this weekend from Katy Independent School District. Unfortunately, we get emails daily from amazing educators, staff members in school districts who are trying to do the right things, and their principals tell them to shut their mouth. So, I certainly wouldn't want you to do anything that causes you to lose your job. But they've really put your licensure at risk, because the first part of your licensure is that you will be ethical.
So Lexi has a question about her son's 504.
Mm-hmm.
And then further down it says, the counselor said it's all or nothing. What is that legal?
I didn't know all or nothing was an item on the menu that I was ordering. So this ain't that. And these are children, not a checkbox. So please stop threatening me with that declaration.
Great.
And then I would order some marbles from E.T.
Oh, phone home. Special education teacher here. I feel like some of my students don't fit in inclusion and no one listens. What do I do to help them?
When you're at the IEP table, you need to show the data that supports they're not successful in their current setting.
If IEP minutes are written as X minutes a week, why does it matter the length of the week?
It doesn't?
Okay. Why has it become okay for teachers and paras to be hit by children with no consequences?
So that's never become okay. That's something your principal allows. So it's not okay. That's why we have child protective services. That's never been okay, that anybody is unsafe in a school building. If that's being allowed, that's the person that hired you.
If my student has a one-on-one on his IEP, but no one is with him for, say, a day or even a week. How do I monitor this?
You don't monitor it because you don't work there, but I would address it with the school and ask when it's going to be rectified.
Okay. What advice would you give to a special education student teacher?
Make sure you have snacks. Make sure that you remember that you have, I would say, the hardest job in education because you cannot teach to the group. And thank you for what you're doing. And no matter what good or bad comes, remember to stay child focused. Not to remember your why, that's manipulation, but to remember the children that you're serving.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Somebody said, and alcohol. I think she meant rubbing alcohol for cleaning your desk. Is that what you meant, TikTok M? Rubbing, yes, and you need rubbing alcohol. Correct.
Can kids be pulled out of specials for compensatory education in lieu of the school providing in-class support?
It depends on what you agreed to. And when there's a compensatory offer, I negotiate that for my clients. So I want to make sure that, it's appropriate for the student.
My child is showing regression after the winter break. How do I get the school to provide ESY?
So ESY is 2 prongs, right? So we have a student that has documented regression with a profound amount of time to recoup that skill. I would say a grading period. Number 2 is concern for loss of critical skills. So almost all of my students meet eligibility for ESY because we're concerned for him losing any of those critical skills that he's acquired during the year.
Several people were asking, where do they submit questions?
In the feed. Put them in the feed.
Right, where you ask, where do I submit questions?
Yeah, like the chicken feed.
If already asked, I just jumped on and missed it, but have you talked about the Senate Bill 1017 in Oklahoma?
Yeah, if you actually read the bill, it's very short, and it talks about medical services. So there are no medical services that are related services under IDEA. And so I think, of course, I wasn't there when the bill was created. You have to go back to its inception. The intention is, Rachel's son has medical speech or medical physical therapy. That's a totally different model. But it's going to be debated, I'm certain, and it doesn't come into effect till July 1st, 2025. And I could just drive up to Oklahoma if that would help y'all. I could just get in my car. I'm driving in my car.
Pick me up on the way. Okay. My daughter is not meeting a goal, and I was told that my child lacks motivation. How do I respond to this?
Disability is not a motivation issue, Muffin. And I would say, please stop saying things that are biased to my child.
A teacher put a child was lazy and it wasn't in the student's ability in the IEP. What are your thoughts about this?
That's discrimination. Lazy is an assumption and a projection. Yeah, so let's not do that. If kids are lazy and unmotivated, let's just get the football coach in there. That should fix their reading problem.
Can paraprofessionals cover resource minutes?
No. They can certainly support the resource teacher as part of the special education team.
Okay, so this question I'm not sure. Will insurance cover residential placement, not treatment?
I would depend on your insurance. Whiskey River says, I'm amazing. Amen. Thank you.
Oh, Barbara Bacchuslaw just got the number 3 gift.
Barbara, you're just moving up the GB ranks. Gifter badge.
What do you do if the school refuses specialized seating for a child with a note from the doctor?
Well, a note from the doctor doesn't mean anything. You need to get that in their IHP, in their 504, their IEP.
Guess what? Texas School District used an intern LLSP for testing, and no LLSP signed the eval or attended the ARD. what can be done?
So it's LSSP, Licensed Specialist in School Psychology. You can file with the State Board of Psychologists on the licensure of those individuals.
My son was offered an aid for academic instruction instead of a one-to-one. Is there a difference?
A one-to-one is a person with a student. There's no quantifier of that has to be Dr. Travis or Principal Elena. It's a human. It's one human. There's no quantifier. It could just be any staff member. So I'm not a fan of one-to-ones, as you all know. I'm a fan of y'all, but I'm not a fan of one-to-ones. But, you know, there's a need for the one-to-one. Is it behavioral? Is it safety? I've never found a student that needs one-to-one for academics. That's not how this works.
What does TEA look at for when they are auditing the district's special education department?
I don't know. I don't work at the Texas Education Agency. I don't work at a school district, and I've never been the recipient or the director of an audit in the state of Texas.
Should RBTs know English if the student only knows English?
The person providing instruction has obligation to communicate with whatever kind of communication modality the student has with the same level of efficacy that they communicate with everybody else in the room.
Do states, and in quotations it's LA, have a cap on how many students a SPED teacher should serve? I have 22 and don't know.
So I think LA is Louisiana. God bless Louisiana. That's where my grandchild is. He had a rough week. He stepped on a friend's ankle. He's 4, and he colored his seat. So much for getting Student of the Month. But anyway, back to Louisiana. So I think the question was for Louisiana, is there a cap? I've never seen a cap in legal statute. I have been told by somebody at one of my trainings that New Jersey has a cap in their state regulations, but it would take me 50 million years to print out all the state regulations for states, and they change every 2 years.
How long do schools have to keep raw data? I asked for support for the progress report, Mark, and they don't have it from last year.
I would imagine they would have to keep it for 36 instructional weeks.
ELL services are being withheld due to a student's behavior. The student goes to a private room with the EA. Thoughts?
We don't withhold students services because of their needs. So this ain't that.
Can compensatory service be after school private counseling?
Yeah, it can be anything that you agree upon.
Can you request that your student be moved to another class at the school if they are both self-contained?
You can do anything, but you have to remember when you ask for something, you're not going to have control over the outcome. So if you were my client, I would say, why do you want that move? Oh, because this teacher's here. Well, that teacher could quit tomorrow. So I'm just very reticent of moving kids.
What should come first for a student that has been expelled? An MDR or child study?
I don't know what a child study is. So if a student has been expelled and they're on an IEP, I assume that you had a manifestation determination resolution meeting to see if this behavioral response and or disciplinary response is a direct correlation to his disability and or because we didn't implement the IEP. So hopefully you're protecting the child's procedural rights that you had an MDR before you expelled them.
Can you amend an expired IEP?
IEPs don't expire. Cheese expires. So an IEP, if you're not in the district, then it's not current, right? But I have had an IEP. We're working on an IEP that the first day of the IEP was October 14th, and we still haven't finished the IEP. So I think that the phrase IEPs expired is used to make people afraid. But if your child's enrolled in school and we haven't agreed upon a new annual IEP. The last IEP remains in place. Certainly, if you're not in school, let's say that you're a homeschooled student or you're at a private school, you made an IEP and it's been over an instructional year, then it's not current.
Is not being recommended for ESY usually a good thing?
It's not a good or bad thing. I mean, if you have a need, you have a need. I mean, is it a bad thing that I don't use a wheelchair? Is it a good thing that I use glasses? It's just we're there to address a student's needs. If they don't need it, they don't need it. I don't consider it good or bad. I remember my son, when he was in 7th grade, the school was like, he doesn't qualify. I was like, please! Because he just loved ESY, and they let him kind of be a little helper person. But the point of special education is to deliver it. And hopefully we've taught a child strategies to self-manage their disability, and at some point we can begin to fade it. And so I just want to be very clear. Everybody is invited to the Seminole County Public Press Conference, where we will be giving you pictures of the blocked doors. We'll have a meet and greet. We'll have pictures with me. Pictures will be 1 for 10, 2 for 30. I'm just kidding. It's Monopoly money. Just bring Monopoly money. So I want to meet all of you guys that are near Orlando, and we need to bring some heat to Seminole County.
Yes, ma'am, we do. How many service minutes can a Gen Ed preschool teacher provide?
All of them. Ba-dum-bum. So, I mean, you have to remember, Gen Ed is not a requirement for preschool. So if you get Gen Ed minutes for preschool, it's a gift.
Many people want you to come to Oklahoma. They're saying, please come now.
You want me to come to Oklahoma City? Is that what you want? And then we can go shopping in Edmonton. We can go to, I love Oklahoma. My son is a professional bowler, and most of his tournaments are in the Oklahoma. Now, I don't know what y'all did to make God mad. Y'all have the worst winters and the worst summer, and the earth opens up. But yes, if you guys want to get together, all you Oklahomans, and bring me in for a press conference at the Capitol, I'm down. So, Crystal Jennings, get your friends together. Shoot me an email.
Why are school districts allowed to put pairs in special education classes as teachers?
Because nobody files. Nobody opens their big mouth and files. So we need you to open your big mouths and file. We need you to file state complaints. We need to file them, over and over and over. They were denied 300.323 and they were denied 300.156. We have a very comprehensive product that you can invest in on Special Education Academy of how to file effective state complaints. If you don't file state complaints, then there's not going to be change.
How can we watch the Seminole County press conference if we're out of town?
You would just get on this lovely application called TikTok. You don't stop. We're going live on TikTok. Somebody said, can teachers file state complaints? It might impact your ability to keep your job. But you know what? We could train you to be a special education advocate.
Yes. That's a great option.
Yes.
Can a student have an FBA and a BIP implemented within their 504?
An FBA is not implemented. An FBA is a functional behavior assessment. It's an evaluation to decide and identify if said behaviors rise to the level of needing a behavior intervention plan. Can you have a behavior intervention plan in a 504? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I don't recommend it. I recommend children get on an IEP. I don't know if you knew that about me.
I'm scared of my 3-year-old doing IEP preschool as I am afraid of him learning worse behaviors. Valid?
It's a valid concern. It's not what actually happens. The biggest worry should be that he doesn't get the intervention he needs.
Okay. What if there isn't a special education teacher to provide services? Then what?
Then you have somebody file a complaint. Let me tell you what happens when I file a complaint. Are y'all listening? Are you listening? When I file a complaint and a district's found non-compliant, guess what happens? The district finds a special educator to go in and staff that room for that child. So let's stop talking about what if, and let's require schools to implement the IEP. There are plenty of people at the school district that have special education certificates that are sitting behind desks not working with children.
Is it legal to set up spelling goals for dyslexic students?
If spelling is a deficit that you want to teach them a skill, absolutely a spelling goal would be appropriate.
In the public school request, we voluntarily reduce hours at school. There's an IEP in place.
The school can request all sorts of things that aren't legal. They're not legal. They're not ethical. I don't have any sad feelings for schools that knowingly deny children services. Could they work really hard to get something to bridge it? Yes. Could they work really hard and be honest with parents? Yes. Could they work really hard and not look at people in a meeting and lie? Yes.
Can a school force homebound while waiting for private day placement?
That might be an appropriate setting. I have a student right now that's homebound because he's unsuccessful at school. He's also unsuccessful with homebound, so it's a safety issue right now. So he is at home while we are setting up out of district day placement. Yes.
Thought on SW and SLP. Full treating.
So you're when you look down. So Cindy, when you look down, it's hard for me to hear the whole question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Thought on SW and SLP, full treating a group of 10 students for 50 minutes. 50 minutes for each provider or
if the schedule of services page says group, then that's appropriate. Is SW Southwest? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It is if you're flying.
Yeah.
My son is having new aggressive behaviors. What should I implement to the IEP?
Well, you should ask for a new FBA, a new functional behavior assessment, or an FBR if he already has a behavior intervention plan. That's a functional behavior review, so that we can identify any acute behaviors that need a behavior intervention plan.
What if my self-contained student with autism comes home with bruises?
I would capture them with a photograph, and I would ask the school to let me know how this occurred, and based upon their response, I would decide next steps.
How can we help dyslexic students who don't qualify for services in Kentucky?
So you want to have a robust evaluation, a full diagnostic profile to include all 7 Gs. If they in fact have dyslexia, you'd be hard pressed to find a student that solely had dyslexia. So often those students have an SLD in basic reading, an SLD in reading fluency, and or an SLD in reading comprehension.
Do you think students are at risk of losing school support with this administration?
I don't think that's going to happen at all. And I've never seen an administration that got rid of kids having school support.
Can a spec teacher teach a level 3 student if they don't have that specific qualification?
So this levels, level 1, level 2, moderate, medium moderate, extra moderate, severe, mild, those are all made up names by states. I'm not being disrespectful. That doesn't exist under IDEA. You have a disability or you don't have a disability. And so you're either credentialed to take the job assignment or you're not.
Why wouldn't you recommend a student to have a BIP through their 504 and have an IEP instead?
Because you're not teaching them anything in a 504. You're teaching them nothing. You're not giving them any specially designed instruction. In an IEP, those behavior intervention plans would turn into, those targeted areas would turn into IEP goals. And I've never, ever had a child that had acute behaviors and it wasn't tied to a disability. Can
you tell me what your thoughts are on inclusion?
I think it's phenomenal. I think it's the law. It's LRE, right? That we educate students with their non-disabled peers to the maximum extent possible with supports and strategies. Before that, in December 1st of 1975 and back, we had seclusion, segregation. So, yeah, I think that we should include disabled children with their non-disabled peers when it's appropriate. Don't you?
I do. Can a district decide not to use IEP accommodations on diagnostic testing?
So accommodations don't exist when you're having special ed testing. So if you're doing a diagnostic test, you do not give them their accommodations. That would break the protocols of the testing.
What if it was a diagnostic beginning, middle, and end of year?
So that's an assessment. So when I think of diagnostic, I think of formalized testing. No, we're testing to the standard. So we would say in there under the district accommodations and or state accommodations, you would put allowable accommodations, but there's great specificity about what can be allowed, not all of the accommodations.
Is it ethical to dismiss related services due to lack of progress?
Well, no. If you have a related services or lack of progress, change the way we're delivering the related service. We don't get rid of it.
Can you please tell me how to file a state complaint in Maryland?
I can. We have a state complaint digital product that you can purchase, and that is at Special Education Academy. It will be the best investment you've ever made, and it walks through literally all of the elements of filing with Advocacy and really teeth into a filing. I see so many state complaints, federal complaints, even due process complaints, and it's just a long emotional dump from the parent, and I get it. I get it. I was a parent of a child with a disability. But that's not what investigators are looking for. They're looking for specificity, really targeted. They're looking for it to be tied to the federal statute. So I'd recommend that you invest in that.
I've asked for more speech therapy in a school for my son, and they denied it to me. Can they do this?
So speech therapy in an educational model is pretty standardized. While it's not, laid out anywhere specifically, it's usually 1 or 2 times in elementary school a week, maybe once every other week in junior high, and even less than that in high school. Remember, every related service means that he's missing something else. So you don't necessarily get more gains by having more therapy because we're working on GMF. So we receive that therapy, the speech and language therapy, and then we work on GMF, generalization, maintenance, and fluency, to see if there's acquisition of what you learned in therapy in the other settings. Somebody said, if I mess up a state complaint, can I redo it? You can revoke your request for a state complaint. So I would just say, Dear Michigan, love ya. I'm revoking my request for a state complaint number 1023458675309, and then revoke it, and then refile. Heidi's waving. Y'all all wave at Heidi. Everybody's waving.
Hi. Mark Jimenez wanted you to know that today they learned of their daughter's tentative start date for outplacement, and they're excited.
Oh, good, Mark. That's so good to hear.
Does federal or state law mandate accommodation trackers?
So we're required with implementing your civil rights with fidelity, right? So the reason we have accommodations is because the student needs it. We're to deliver accommodations RE, routinely and effectively. So only the teacher would know if they were effective. The only way she would know that is if she's measuring them and monitoring them. Everything that you're supposed to do in special education is not listed in the law. The law would be 800,000 million pages long, right? Like, don't lie to parents about special educators not being in your classroom. We don't list every single thing. The law is assumptive. It assumes that you know what it meant. So when it said that we have to measure and monitor progress, the law assumed that you knew that meant capturing data.
So Carla needs to know, what is the name of the document or the complaint or the letter that you talk about that they need to file for schools that have paras as lead teachers and they're not certified.
So that training, if you go to specialeducationacademy.com, we have a training on how to file a state complaint. Those are videos. All of that exists in there. Because it's not just there's not just one thing. A state complaint is a legal document that you're going to draw the attention of a state investigator to identify an allegation. And depending on how you file it, they may not even open it.
My 6-year-old doesn't want to go to school because the bus is noisy. Can she have special ed related services?
Well, she has to get to school, so she probably meets eligibility for special education transportation. Let's see if we can modify that in some way to make that more comfortable for her. Maybe some headphones might be a first start. Somebody asked, what will happen to SPED if the Department of Education is closed? So special education is a federal act. It's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It's not a department. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973 is a federal act. It's not a department. The acts don't go away. Civil rights don't go away. But I don't work there, so they haven't asked me. But if they call, I'll tell them what to do.
Can you recommend any East Texas districts for self-contained or relocating?
Well, welcome to East Texas. I went to East Texas Baptist College 1,400 million years ago. I can't recommend any district for anything because districts are run by wonderful people and a couple of people that probably shouldn't work at schools. So there are some districts that do really good at specific services, whether they're vision, deaf and hard of hearing, some dyslexia, some behavior. But again, I would hate to tell you to move to ABC School District in East Texas. I would hate to tell you to move. There's a place called White House, Texas, which is right outside of Tyler. But again, districts are run by leadership. And special ed goodness in a district is based upon leadership. And that leadership is the special education director.
What if schools requiring our NPA, RBT, 1-to-1 to lead instruction for our kid instead of the teacher?
And RBT is not listed under IDEA. There's no requirement for that. So, I would need to see that, that's what I'd say. Things that make you go, That's what that song is, right?
Yes. Brings back the college days.
Show off. See, she's showing off because she went to college and she finished. Whatever. She didn't go to as many colleges as I did. So.
And yet, where did I end up? Under your tutelage.
Tutelage. Yeah.
Yes.
College dropout tutelage. This is Karen. How can I direct your call? Bloop. Mm-hmm.
If a child can't attend specials or walk in the hallway or lunch and safely, should it be time for a non-public school?
Not necessarily. I mean, he needs to receive his total of his instructional day inside of a self-contained class at the campus. We can do that.
I'm a para. Why don't whistleblower laws protect teachers and paras from retaliation if they file a complaint?
I am working on that with our state leadership at the moment, love. Because I have a big mouth and I'm going to run it. But we should protect the ones serving our kids. It's awful that you are manipulated by your bosses. It's actually disgusting. So I'll keep running the truth at the flagpole. But yeah, we've got to fix this at our state leadership level.
And if you did want to turn a pivot and become an advocate, when is your next 2-day live?
The next 2-day live is February 15th and 16th in Orlando, but we always have the 2-day on demand. Somebody said, I adore you and your big mouth. Thank you. It all started with Miss Campbell, who gave me an F in conduct in 1971 for talking too much. Look at her prophesying my future. I bet Miss Campbell's a bartender somewhere. I bet she is. She's at some honky tonk.
SLP continues to try to get behavioral interventions, RT, ADHD, removed from IEP. What can I do to stop this?
I don't know who you are when you say, what can I do? So we only... go ahead.
Mama Bear.
Yeah, so we only make changes in the document because you have data to support that. So I would say I'm amenable to changes, but I can't agree to any changes if you don't have any data that you could screen share and we could see. I assume that you're about to present some data that supports your recommendation, Muffin. And if you leave with Muffin, it's the best.
The state of New Jersey said that since my son got 80% with general education, he was in LRE. I thought it was maximum extent possible.
LRE is the maximum extent possible. And LRE is a consideration. It's not a location. Locations are teased out on your schedule of services page. But, oh my goodness, how confused we are on LRE. I'm trying to get him back to his LRE.
If every student with an IEP is exempt from receiving disciplinary actions, is every student with an IEP exempt from receiving disciplinary actions like involuntary transfer?
So no student is exempt from the student code of conduct. Not one of them. Not a single one of them. When there is an action that requires a response from leadership that may include a behavioral response and a disciplinary measure, we're charged with identifying if it's related to their disability or it's related because we didn't implement the IEP.
Why is it so difficult to get mainstreaming if it is agreed the student should have mainstreaming?
Because of the goofy leadership. I said it. Goofy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Can a vocational high school not have some separate classes offered at all?
Some separate classes offered? I'm not really...
SUB, separate.
I'm not really sure I understand the question.
Nor do I. Maybe we'll get clarification.
Okay.
My son just worked up to a full day after school avoidance since his last school year. He has an IEP. Oh, and it ended. Sorry. Maybe we'll get more. A child that has autism, nonverbal with a different delay, does he have to go to school?
All students in America are required to go to school somewhere.
What kind of data do advocates like to see? Monthly data on objectives? Weekly? Friends?
Data that supports needs, and data that supports IEP goals, and data that supports a recommendation or change for increase or decrease to the schedule of service minutes.
Does anyone know where I can find different accommodations for a child with ADHD? Oh, you have a friend.
So
his name is Chad.
Yeah, my boyfriend Chad GBT. But it's not about an accommodation for an eligibility. It's how that eligibility shows up in that child. So there's 16 characteristics of ADHD, and it depends on how those show up in your child.
My student has a one-to-one in his IEP who assists with intense behaviors. It's been 6 months without the one-to-one, and we're having severe regression. What are my next steps?
I would ask the district why they're not implementing the codified IEP. I would ask for compensatory time, and when are they going to rectify him being denied FAPE?
Okay. What if the state complaint already ruled in the school's favor?
File another one. File a better one. Get more specific. And there has to be a violation, right? You can't just, it's not, I don't like Rachel. Oh, Rachel. What's your name? Rachel. Yeah. Do you work? No. Yeah. So I think a lot of people, here's what I know. There are lots of things that are wrong that aren't illegal. So you have to identify what are those procedural violations that have been violated, and then you have to substantiate your allegation. And we're going to go till 10 till the Great Cindy, so that's 3 more minutes in Florida, and Montana, and Georgia.
Oh, not Montana. That's funny. If you are giving a child accommodations that are on the IEP, can you be over-accommodating?
You can be over-accommodating if you're giving a child accommodations that create learned dependency and are, recusing him from learning and recusing the school from teaching.
Can we ask for a child to be evaluated more than 1 day?
1 day asking or 1 day evaluation? Yes and yes.
My principal told me that I am over-accommodating my students. Okay. Child has anxiety. Any reason why I should not ask for him to be exempt from state testing?
Yeah, exempting him from testing doesn't teach him a strategy to self-manage his disability. So we're charged with teaching children strategies to self-manage their disability, not recuse them from participating.
Boss, how long does the school have to replace the teacher?
1 moment in time. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, they need to replace the teacher.
This is a funny one. Measure and monitor? Shocking concept. Wish Denton ISD did this. Okay.
Somebody said, can I go on TikTok and YouTube at the same time? I can, but I don't have the bandwidth to do that. So we're trying to look into StreamYard. But, heaven forbid the frame freezes. Y'all get all worked up. Barbara's going to bed. She's had enough of this. Just so you know, Cindy. Night, Barb.
How does a parent advocate for their child if they don't know how to ask?
They would take our 2-day training. That's what it's for. It's for you to be an advocate at the table, and the training is exemplary. So if you go to Special Education Academy and go to 2-day intensive, that will give you the training you need. Oh, I think you guys are amazing too. Okay, one more. Uno más el cuestiono para mí.
I have a student who is 19 and is currently incarcerated. Am I required to service him in jail?
We're required to implement the IEP. I don't know if you're personally required to go in there and do that, but somebody has to. So, thanks you guys for being here. Happy Monday, fun day. Remember, if you want to learn how to file a great state complaint, or you've been impacted by your student being in Katy ISD and the totality of the IEP hasn't been implemented, we're going to be training on that this Friday, February 7th. You need to get registered for our Zoom webinar so that we can train you how to file effective state complaints. So, love you guys. Remember, we get it right for the job, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training.